Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Good, good. How you doing, Paul?
It's a great day.
Glad somebody's having one.
Okay. Nine oh eight, we will now call the regular board meeting of the Fairlands GCD Board of Directors to order. May discuss, consider, and take all necessary action, including possible expenditures of funds regarding each of the agenda items. Declare this meeting open to the public. Sinclair, can you call vote?
Director Beseda,
Here.
Director Kurt,
Here,
Director Osborne, Director Tischler,
Here.
Director McPherson, Director Smith, Director Curtis.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you, Sinclair. We'll move on to item number 3. Have anybody signed up for public comment?
Mr. Tickle has signed up, but he is also listed
It's
on the agenda.
Right.
You want to hold your comments till later on the agenda?
Okay. All right. Since there's no comments, we'll move on to item number 4. It's a consent agenda. I will entertain a motion. A motion made and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item number 5, administrative and financials. Kathy?
Thank you, Mr. President. We start off with update on administrative and financial activity. January brings the transition from post-coverage payment of water disputes to annual quarterly payment requirements for permanent authorization. 2021 invoices that was, as we discussed previously, went out mid-November with payment of 2020 dues due on the 10th of January. Again, permanent authorized users had the option of selecting annual, quarterly. They did choose monthly payment that was very surcharge on that. Past due will occur at the 30 days out. To date, payments have been coming in a manner that I feel like is very positive. And hopefully, we'll have a report on that I can provide to you to show what month to date is on 2021. Next item is receive the quarterly investment report for 2020. I have included in your packet a fourth quarter investment report detailing the district's banking, checking activity, and account balances. As shown, all district funds are adequately covered by FDIC coverage, insurance, and as well as pledged securities through Citizens National Bank of Texas. They have provided a letter of credit from Federal Home Loan Bank for I believe it's $1.5 billion. And I'll be glad to take any questions on this.
If not, thank you very much, Kathy. We'll move on to item number 6.
So I've included in your packet on page 92 just a brief little communication piece regarding this item. The district has recently restructured our accounting department to ensure accuracy in all of its financial activities, and we posted notice of time for the position of comptroller. During this transaction, there is a need for financial assistance during the recruiting, training, and onboarding. currently, me and a staff member have been handling the basics of all the accounting and bookkeeping, but we do know there are a few things that need to be wrapped up. I feel more comfortable having an actual accounting type person doing some of that. Plus, I like that layer separation between my role and that. I've done some research and I found a company that can do temporary bookkeeping, accounting, as they have offices in Austin and Fort Worth, so forth. So it's more of a remote bookkeeping. It provides these services to companies throughout Texas. They can do daily, weekly, or monthly accounting. So I reached out to them to get an idea of their costs and availability. You know, one of the things they would like to do is break it up in phases, also depending on how soon we have someone brought in to hire, and so forth. But, you know, the initial would be to go in and review their existing QuickBooks and make recommendations as far as any type of, you know, legacy cleanup of legacy transactions, and look at the accounts payable and accounts receivable transaction and make sure we follow through. We still need to get 1099 out, so forth. That time. And then report this status and open items to me and make recommendations on what is the rest of the status. So forth. Another item I've asked them to task is with the new year is setting up the QuickBooks for 2021 to ensure all charter accounts match the latest items. So what I would like to ask today, we do have budgeted monies for accounting assistance throughout the year, and I would like authorization to finalize agreement with them not to exceed $1,500 on the division phase 1 and 2 to kind of get us through this crucial time until we get ours.
Okay, your motion.
After the initial.
Should there be other items of need, I would bring that back, and at this time, it's not down. I think that's probably the items of need will come back before the fact. If I didn't, we might have something before that. Now, they would like to go ahead and give us that cost. Currently, I may look at that as well, this problem. How it works where we have yes, I even have Sinclair level large track home time. I know that's good for now to go to, you know, there's just trying to good follow up. But I've done a lot of work on Austin and some through and I think before I contact them, I did this down to find the third and usual. They have this.
Motion made and authorize general manager to finalize agreement for latest. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed. Motion carried. Discuss and consider request by Sam Tidwell to amend permitting rules in the district. Kathy?
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Tidwell is here today. He is a property owner in the Middle Oakland area. He has property right off of FM 875, I believe. And he is here today to discuss a concern he has with permitting requirements and ask for a possible exemption or waiver. So I've asked him to be here to describe what his situation is and request that.
So could I just this time?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, President, Director. Thank you for hearing me today. I'm really here to talk about is how the history. I mean, if you know the history of my property there, I own 56 acres there in Mount Peak area. And in 2001, I took 15-acre pasture and built 3 golf range and 2 fairways. And up to extension ponds, 1 particular.
Mr. Tiggle, can you hold for a moment? Our attorney is online and he's not able to hear. Can we turn that volume?
Let me turn it, you know, just speak a little louder.
That might help. Let's-
Okay. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm deaf and I've got my hearing aids turned up about as loud as I can hear. So
He
I
said that's
thought
better.
I was doing a good job. So just give me a thumbs up and I'll speak louder. You know, what I'm not looking to ask you to amend your rules. I've been following your rules along best I can. I've read as much of the Texas rules online and your also your governing rules. And I understand your organization. Matter of fact, I support it, quite frankly. I understand the need for sustainable groundwater. And I have personally been affected by other property that I own where it was not so. And it devalued my property. So I understand that. I understand the permitting that is required under TCEQ for clean air. I actually have 2 of those permits for my businesses in Dallas. I spent a lot of time in Austin at TCEQ reviewing those. And so I understand and know exactly what the department here is about. And, but I want to just kind of explain my situation and tell you what I've done. And I think you know, but I've kind of wrote it down. And I wrote on this little piece of paper here, the mission of your organization. I agree with it. And I think I align with everything that's on there. And you stand for it. The request for my 2 wells, an exception or exemption, that's what I'm looking for. Some kind of special condition under your 3.6-11 where you request a special condition. And so what happened 20 years ago, I was going to tell you that I built these greens and fairways and a personal golf course. You know, I was 47 years old at the time, didn't know I was going to get old. And now I'm 67. And I'm thinking of the next 20 years and the things that just keep coming at me from intervention in my life, you know, and I've got to keep up with all these things. It's really trouble. And so what I wanted to state what I'm doing with them. When I built those greens, we were not in good shape in 2001. Matter of fact, we had a little drought going on. And so I built that retention pond and it didn't have enough water in it. And I built it. I had an engineering company come out and built that pond. And one of the things about putting a good pond like that that's sealed about bentonite, you need to keep it full of water. You let it go start drying and cracking and back up and back down. It breaks down the integrity of the pond. And so I called a guy or drilling company and had him come out and drill a well. While he was there, I said, let's just drill 2. So that way I've got enough water I can keep up with this. And because each one of those wells they produce 35 gallons an hour. And I was losing my grass. I saw those fairways in, and it takes fertilizer water to keep those things healthy. So anyway, we got through that season. And since that time, I've really only needed 1. And if you look, I wrote down here my production since down toward the bottom here, since your organization's been in existence. We put those meters on in late 2012. And so since then, we've had water metered since 2013. And we had a little drought that year. Matter of fact. But since that time, past that, you can see my usage has been averaging for the last 10 years, 1.4 million gallons. And so obviously one residential 17 gallon per minute well would support that. Unfortunately for me, it all comes in August and September. The retention pond that I have, it's a 3/4 acre pond, it's 12 feet deep. And quite frankly, I think I could run it all the way to the bottom and probably get through. But again, it's not the right thing to do for the health of my pond that I built. And so I've got those wells. Obviously, I could turn one off or abandon it. You know, the investment was over $20,000 a piece, and they're sitting there working. They're just fine. So I've got to back up if one of them was to fail for some reason. And so I just don't run those wells but 2 months a year, and usually just one of them. And I'll run one and then I'll switch them. And you know, every month or two, I'll turn it off for 5 minutes just to give it some use. You know, keep it from just rusting up, corroding down below. But the permitting that came through, you know, I resisted that. The guy who was still on board at the time, I felt, you know, against that. Quite frankly, it came at me, you know, 8 years after I drilled my wells, and the state legislation authorized this commission. And so I just thought I ought to be exempt at that time. I didn't get it. And so I registered the wells, and then I started reporting. Then came in the historical permitting. And so I had to do that. So as your organization evolved, the rules just keep evolving, right? And I'm always affected. Emails, more mail, more mail. I'm just trying to work a couple of months out a year, some grass, keep my grass healthy here in that kind of turf grass. And turf grass is mowed short. We grow it at 5/8 inch. You got to fertilize it. Fertilize it like 3 times a year. Keep it healthy. You got to keep the water. And so otherwise you have invasive weeds and things like that get into you. And so I'm trying to take care of it. And I do need the water. But I just trying to simplify my life, and I was hoping to ask and be granted an exception to allow those 35 gallon per minute wells, but cap the usage at historical permit. And I understand why the state legislation wrote what they did. They have to all encompassing. They've got to try to cover as much ground as they can when they put different gallons per minute for various applications. And I just feel dug too big of wells. And so instead of pulling those out and abandoning one, putting one little small well back in there, I'm just asking under those conditions to just grant the exceptions for those 2 wells. I personally monitor those wells. I don't run my water over my pond. It's costly. It's not the right thing to do. I turn them on, turn them off when I need them. They're right there at my house. And I just feel like that you guys should grant me that. So that's the request. Any questions on that? I'd be happy to talk about it. Answer them for you. I do not. Yeah. And personally, it's for my family and invited guests. Very seldom would anyone ever come by there and see somebody playing golf on that course. It's a very expensive hobby.
So, Mr. Tidwell, I think a question that's still not clear, what exactly are you asking to be exempt from? Is it from paying fees?
I don't mind the money. I'll donate you any amount of money you need for that. That's not an issue. I'm leaving the organization. It's not the money. It's just the additional permitting. We keep changing every few years. And the reporting, I don't mind reporting once a year. That's fine. You know, now it's every month. That's 20 months old. I got to fill all that out. You know, I finally got converted to electronic payments at the bank, so I can pay online, simplify my life instead of writing checks. Just trying to simplify my life. That's all it is. I'm agreeing to the cap on the water for the 3.5 million that's on my historical permit. Happy with the historical permit. I'll send you the check. I'm just trying to say it. I don't know about the next. We'll just simplify. Just keep. Don't change the rules. That's what. Yeah.
So for the directors, FYI, just further information, make sure you're aware, I have included in your packet a kind of a communication piece on the existing historic use permit application that Mr. Tidwell has filed. I've also included an aerial photograph that I believe City Center has put up on your monitor showing the piece of property and the position of the two wells. Again, I'm going to re-ask a question because our attorney is still having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
The question is, what is it you really want exempt from? And I don't want to put words in your mouth and answer back to him. So if you could respond to that.
You know, I want, just trying to think about this. I would like to keep
Can you speak louder, please?
I'd like to keep my wells. I'd like to be exempt from the 17 gallon per minute. I'd like to have my 35 gallon wells there as they are. I don't want to have to abandon either well. I'm okay with the historical permit. And I'd like to just read those meters once every 6 months or once every year and go along with the rules that were in place last year. And because I don't know what the rules are going to be next year and the year after. The rules just keep evolving. I'm just trying to figure out how to finally figure it out. That's all. If you can exempt it and no charge, that's fine. I'm not worried about the money. It's just a few $100s. That's not the issue at all. I have meters already on the wells, so I don't have to do that. I've already spent that money. I'm okay with reporting my usage, no problem. I don't just like to quit getting so much correspondence. Let me just send it to you once a year.
So when the district adopted permanent rules in December of 2018, were there portions of the old rules that you like better than the new? Is this part of the concern? I mean, what was it in the old rules that?
I think the reporting changing from twice a year to every month, that's just a hassle for me. Since I only use the well two months out of the year, I'd like to just report it and send you the check once a year. But that, I understand that's a hard thing. So because I don't need to be exception in your billing department. So is there an exception that you can just exempt me? And I just send a report in once a year how much I use. Your man actually comes out and measures the depth of the water in my wells. He can read them for me, turn it in. I don't care who does it. And I'm going to operate within your guidelines. I'm not going to use that much water. That's not the deal. Just trying to simplify my life. So if you got some thoughts on how to do that, that's all I'm trying to do.
And I can concur with Mr. Tidwell. In the 20 years he's been there, I think I've seen people play golf on that thing twice. Of course, I'm not down there all the time, but it's not used a lot. It's not used for public.
And that was Director Kirk.
No random.
Hello, Dan, how you doing?
So what I have asked, Brian Sledge, our attorney, is on. Brian, are you able to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So, my recommendation is to the board is to consult you for guidance on this. And I don't know if this is something you're prepared to respond to today or,
Yeah. Well, I really didn't understand what was being requested until just now. So it was kind of hard to prepare. There's not really an exception in the current rules. I think what I'm hearing from Mr. Tidwell is that he doesn't mind getting the permit. He doesn't mind paying the fees. He just doesn't want to have to send in reports monthly. He'd rather do that, something like it was in the old system where you did it every 6 months or every year. Is that the gist of it?
Well, that would be nice. If I only had to report once a year, that would be great. If you could exempt it, so I didn't have to report, that would be nice also. But I'm not trying to change all your rules. I'm just asking for an exception to just simplify my life. That's all I'm trying to do.
And so as a manager, you know, the administrative concerns I would have is the precedent if we allowed an exception on this. And, you know, how would we carve it out so it's not a full-blown district-wide exception? Because the importance of monthly pumping serves many roles here. It allows staff to ensure that people are staying within their permitted authorization. It protects the permitted user from exceeding it unknowingly. And it's a management tool as we look to develop more science and go forward. You know, real-time data, you know, current information is very, very valuable. And what we've seen in the past on this reported pumpage is even though it was semi-annual, we were not getting it to the district till 3 months after that reporting period. And so when we're trying to do reports and use this data for information, there's always this big time lapse. So again, you know, I think and this is probably something we need to meet with the Rules Committee and Brian to discuss so that we make sure if this is a consideration, it's not a big problem administratively as we go forward.
Do you mind making another comment? So I'm not trying to change your whole program. I agree with that. So could you just simply grant me an exemption to the rule and just let me use my wells? In other words, not report.
Mr. Tidwell, there's a lot of voting factors, so what I would suggest to the board and to Brian is that we take it under advisement at this time and try to come up with a plan that's going to be beneficial, that would be either for you or us or whomever that might want to do this in the future.
All right.
We have time to look at, you know, every angle on it to see what might work if there is a solution to it.
And I think under 36.117, there could be a 1.1 rule there. There could be an exemption for personal port type activity on your domestic property. And so
Well,
there's some, I saw some precedents on that.
while your use is not what is considered domestic use, the volume is an amount that would be less than domestic. And, you know, as I talked with the board last month, is there a possibility to look at treating this somewhat different given the use amount is less than domestic? And that's what we need to meet with the Rules Committee to see if we could create another bracket for this. And I do believe we have a comment from Director Curtis.
Question, Mr. Tidwell, John Curtis. My understanding, I'm trying to clarify this in my own head. You're not asking for any more water. No. You're just asking for consideration on reporting requirements, going from monthly to either semi-annually or annually.
That's a first request. And if that's too much for the billing administration, if you will, I'm just asking to exempt my wells so I don't even have to report. We know what I'm doing. I've got 10 years of history here, 20 years of history, exactly what I'm doing. I'm not changing what I'm doing. And so I could agree that if there was any substantial change in what I was doing, I would have to come under different guidelines.
And the reason I'm asking these questions is I want crystal clear in my head what the request is. So actually there's two requests, the billing request and the potential of changing your usage from do non-exempt.
That'd be the first request. If we could just forget the whole deal and simplify my life for the next 20 years, just exempt my wells, let me pump my water. If I need to send you a check, you know, to help support the organization, I'm perfectly fine with that. I just like to simplify it here.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to make a motion at this time that we table this until the committees can meet on it and bring a recommendation back to the board on this specific for Mr. Tidwell, and give us time to everybody look at it and have a committee meeting on it. We'll just bring back correct response. Here's a second. I have motion made and seconded that we table this motion and look at considerations. And get back.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carried.
Here.
That's Paul.
Sorry, Paul. I got 10.
That's correct. I just making my note. I'm opposed.
Thank you. Good, well, have a good day. Item number 7, update on public outreach activities, education, and conservation efforts. Sinclair.
Good morning, everyone. Okay. I'll stand very close. Just a few updates on some public relations and education initiatives. The winter 2021 Eli newsletter was completed in the latter part of last week, and it is prepared for distribution this afternoon. So this issue features articles about kind of a short summary of the 2020 well registration and groundwater usage in the district, some winter weather watering tips, a short GMA 8 update, just some other informative articles and information. I've also started to begin initial work on the 2020 annual report. So starting to gather numbers and information for that in the next coming weeks. On December 22nd, we did have 2 local 4-H water ambassadors visit the district office. They presented us with our sponsorship plaque for 2020, and Kathy visited with them. Their families were here, so we got to get to know them better, and they toured the building and got to see the water education trailer, and it was great having a chance to visit with those students and their families and learning more about them and why they're interested in the program and what they've learned so far through their involvement. I've also included a list of upcoming events for the spring of 2021. We've got several events spanning from January through May, as you can see. So my spring starting to book up, and I'm excited to have some events back on the schedule for to have those education outreach events. And then I've included in here just a quick snapshot of our social media. I do want to point out that during December, we did reach over 3,000 people through our Twitter account, and our LinkedIn page has really taken off, and our information was seen almost 650 times. So I continue to see growth and reach there through social media. If there are any questions about any education outreach items I discussed, then I will move on to our next item related to the Texas 4-H Youth Water Ambassador Program. Just a quick, just a brief overview kind of on the program itself. So this program was formed in 2017, and it was created as a way to educate youth about water in Texas, how it's collected, conveyed, treated, conserved, managed in order to meet the need of not only our state's economy, but that increasing population growth that we're seeing. So the district currently has 5 ambassadors. They are in Johnson, Hill, and Ellis counties. And this program is funded through private sponsorships, and those sponsorships, those funds are used solely for the mission and objectives of the Texas 4-H Water Ambassadors Program. The district has been involved as a sponsor since 2017, I've included a breakdown of our sponsorship levels that we've previously been involved with. So given the continued growth and development of this program since 2017, as well as the increasing number of participants and ambassadors that we're seeing within the district, it would be my recommendation to approve providing a signature level sponsorship amount of $5,000 for the Texas 4-H Youth Water Ambassador Program for 2021. The 2021 operating budget that was approved in November 16th of 2020 does include adequate funds for a sponsorship level, and that is included in the conservation education budget item. I'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
I have asked Sinclair to include a draft motion if the board is in support of this recommendation. I do think it is a well-deserved sponsorship throughout this county, and I'm excited to see that we've had so many youth in our 4 counties interested in it. It speaks well of our communities and 4-H programs. And, you know, this program has also adapted, like many of us, whether we're in education or in the workforce, how we overcome the COVID obstacles. You know, most of this consisted on hands-on projects going from different areas of the state, from surface water to groundwater, and as well as going to wastewater treatment plants. And, you know, you just know anything that involves water, get them to see the different angles and sides. And so when I spoke with the family that was here a couple of weeks ago, you know, asking how they're, you know, working around that. So much of the projects now are online, but, you know, the state has really jumped in and made it still fun and encouraging. They still are having that interaction. It's not what they want. They hope to be back in-person meetings, and they are still doing small degree of kind of meeting together. But, you know, if we can get this back to where it was a year and a half ago when they were having all these opportunities to go statewide and work with these different industries and organizations, it's great. I think you'll see a lot of future leaders.
I've also included in your board packet a copy of the breakdown of the different sponsorship levels, so you can see what all is included with each sponsorship level that we're considering. And then also they sent us their annual report for 2020, and there is some more information there, like Kathy mentioned, on how they've adapted given what has occurred in the year of 2020. So that information is there as well. But I did want to point out that there is a breakdown of those sponsorship levels.
I think it's a very good program. We started way back there in 2017. It's brought awards all over the state. These people going out and speaking to people about water, and it also it helps for us to have young leaders that actually will take her place one day here, and I think it's a very well. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. And Sinclair, thank you for being so thorough on this. I really appreciate this program.
Okay, hold on, Paul.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right. First off, Sinclair, thank you for the thoroughness on this. And I will motion to approve the sponsor.
Okay, now Mark. Okay.
I'm looking at.
Well, we went to the max.
Signature is the complex.
Yes, yes.
Page 98 is the pack.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion and second that we do the signature level. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just a reminder from our public message me, please turn on your mics when you speak. And we're trying to get this volume working for our public. I think this has been one of our more successful Zoom meetings, so let's make it, continue to make it positive.
Okay. We'll move on to item number 8. Kathy?
Yes, sir. So I might ask for a little assistance on this from our attorney, Brian Sledge, but I'll kind of roll it out. So TAG held a special meeting on January 7th for its groundwater district membership. And we had, well, first of all, to kind of backtrack, TAG had received a request from a member district, being Natchez Trinity Valley GCD, to participate or to file a brief in support of a lawsuit that they're involved in with Mountain Pure Texas. TAG has a very defined policy on supporting amicus briefs, so we had this special meeting to discuss the merits of the brief and to move forward on voting, and it took, I forget what percent of the membership to support that to move forward. But the membership did vote to support this, which then in turn authorized the executive director to work with an attorney to write this brief. But, you know, the cost expected to TAG is not to exceed $5,000. The way is, you know, I have included in here the background on the lawsuit. You know, this is a situation where a groundwater district required a bottling plant to permit. This bottling plant refused to move forward with the rules of the district. When the district enforced against them, the bottling plant more or less just closed up shop, but then later came back and said because of the permitted rules, it caused them a loss, and then they filed a type of short version. So this has gone to court. You know, the district first sued, they countersued, and you know, my concern here is the precedent that this potentially can set for other groundwater districts as we move forward enforcing our rules and issuing any type of enforcement letter. And so with that, I'll ask Brian to kind of add some discussion on that. But, you know, given what I know about it and the information that was provided to us, and I did include in your packet on page 111, a copy of the district's request to TAG, as well as statement of facts provided by their district's attorney, kind of itemizes these points. Brian, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think it's good that TAG would file an amicus brief on this. I don't think TAG's filed an amicus brief in any lawsuit in several years. But the key here with this thing is that this plaintiff refused to apply for a permit. And despite the district making numerous attempts to get it to, and so the district, to enforce its rules, eventually filed a lawsuit to enforce its rules because the plaintiff failed to get a permit. And then the plaintiff claims that it was the district's enforcement lawsuit that caused a takings of its property. And so that's the issue, the legal issue of significance, that what needs to happen is the plaintiff needs to apply for a permit, and either the plaintiff will get a permit and have no claim, or he can be denied a permit, and that could lead to a takings claim. But he can't just not apply at all, and the district files a lawsuit to enforce its rules, and the enforcement lawsuit constitutes a taking. That's the legal issue that's a precedent to all groundwater districts. And so I think it would be a good use of the district's funds to help contribute the Texas Alliance of Groundwater Districts to file an amicus brief on this.
And I had recommended $250. I know other districts are pledging amounts similar to that or a little less. You know, one of the things, if it does not get a motion for rehearing, TAG will not move forward on anything else on this. So this cost is only to pay for the attorney to write that brief for the rehearing. Is that the way you understand it too, Brian?
Yeah.
So fine, I'm gonna let you detail that. What court is it in right now?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Where exactly does this case stand right now in court? Or wherever?
It's in a district court within the jurisdiction of the 12th Court of Appeals near Tyler.
So it has, it was initially filed. Brian stepped through that. I didn't bring that piece of paper in here.
It was filed in district court. The district moved to dismiss the claims. The trial court refused to dismiss the takings claim of the plaintiff.
But
Well,
it
yeah.
overturned one, but not the
The-
taking.
Yeah, the district filed its enforcement action in district court. The defendant counterclaimed with its takings claim. The district moved to dismiss that on jurisdictional grounds, pleaded the jurisdiction, et cetera. The trial court did not dismiss it. The district took that up to the 12th Court of Appeals. The 12th Court of Appeals reversed and remanded so that back to the district court so that the well owner could try to perfect its takings claim. And now it has claimed that the loss of its contract that it was going to sell water for is the basis for its takings claim. And the district court asked the district for a response. And so that's where it is right now, I understand it.
So Sinclair, I did have that in your packet. Sinclair picked it up. Okay.
And if each district pitching in $250 is all it takes, that's a pretty good deal.
Okay, I have a motion to table to do the $250 for the next spring. Did I hear, I have a second, so we will move to vote on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 8. Oh, excuse me, number 9. Discuss, consider, and take action on authorizing the general manager to take action on district's hydrology.
Okay, I'll lay this out. Effective January 4th, James Beach is no longer, well, James Beach, who serves as our primary hydrogeologist, is no longer employed with WSP USA. He is starting his own consulting firm. When I became aware of that, I did reach out to James to see what his plans were and learn more about his consulting firm that he's putting together. I believe it's called Absolute Groundwater Solutions. At that time, I asked James about putting together a scope of work and a proposal for the district to consider, especially given the situation where we are with our groundwater needs and hydrological needs, including the DFC development and adoption. Knowing all this, we have been working with James since probably 2010, early 2011, when the district first put out qualifications for hydrology, and James worked with LBG Guyton at that time. I believe it was in August of 2017, LBG Guyton was bought out by WSP, and so therefore James transitioned with that change and has been the district engineer as long as I know. I think we've had CDM do some work for the district, but I believe James and his firm has always handled our hydrology needs. So It would be my recommendation today, due to the current and ongoing needs of the district, including the DFC development, as I mentioned, and its adoption, that we enter into an agreement with Absolute Groundwater Solutions for interim general hydrological consulting services in DFC development and adoption, while issuing a request for qualifications to solicit statements of qualifications from interested hydrology firms. This will allow time for an RFQ process and for board members to have adequate time to review statements of qualifications from hydrology firms, while allowing the district to continue its hydrology consulting services from James Beach at its new firm during this process. I do believe James is on. If y'all want to congratulate him on his new firm or ask him questions. And I'm glad to answer questions as well.
Anybody have any questions? I'd like to make a motion. Actually, I'd like to make two motions. The first one would be, I'd like to authorize the general manager to issue a request for qualifications for the hydrogeologic consulting services related to groundwater management, planning, permitting, and data collection.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Paul. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. And then the second one, I would like to authorize the general manager to terminate the consulting agreement with WSP USA and enter into a temporary agreement with Absolute Groundwater Solutions for interim general consulting services and DFC development and adoption.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
James, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but thanks for the continuation. Just one small clarification. It's Advanced Groundwater Solutions LLC. Look forward to working with y'all. Appreciate the temporary support and look forward to competing to win the business again. Thank you.
And James, my apologies for that name.
No problem.
I pointed that out. That's always still be calling that.
Okay. Move on to item number 10, groundwater management area and activities.
I have included in your packet an email I received from coordinator with GMA 8, and it's more or less outlining the schedule on adoption of proposed DFCs. As y'all may recall, I mentioned at our last couple of board meetings that the GMA met in October, and at that time they approved proposed DFCs for adoption. What this timeline does is put it the schedule in place on the needs of the individual districts on adopting these DFCs or put them out for a public hearing and then adoption. So with the clock actually started on the time frame which we must hold a public hearing and receive comments. And that clock started on November the 16th when North Texas Groundwater District mailed out the proposed adoption schedule with the DFC, and the deadline for which each district must hold individual hearings is February the 14th, which is a Sunday and prior to our next board meeting. So we need to think about having a special meeting or either moving our February meeting up. Regardless, we have to have a hearing before February the 14th. Other deadlines listed in here is the time frame of sending summary reports to managing district within GMA to use in putting the explanatory report together. So do we want to look at a hearing separate from a board meeting? Or do we want to move
Well, we have everything ready to have a board meeting.
Yes, we are required to post notice in hearing 10 days out, so that would be the one little factor we have to consider. Brian, it is only 10 days, right?
That's correct.
So the 14th, and it's business days or calendar days? So we need to look at having it really the first week of February. So based on that, it would be my recommendation to have 2 meetings.
Okay.
The public hearing, because I think having a board meeting that quick following is not a good.
Weather thing. Okay. We need to have the hearing when,
Well, not knowing y'all's schedule, and we can send out a doodle poll for the first week, but it needs to
Okay.
be on, or, I mean, before the fourth.
between the first and fourth.
Or the last week of January.
January. We'll do that.
So you want me to send out a doodle poll and find the best day?
This one.
Okay, I just need y'all to reply to it. I'm not looking at anybody. We'll get that out today so we can get that set and get the notice posted.
First we can call in and say we're good for these things.
Right. All right, I'll have staff call and fill it out for you.
That'll work.
But this kind of snuck up on me. I was thinking that we could have it with our next board meeting, but when I talked to Brian the other day and we started counting days, we realized that was not going to be.
Well, that's why I asked you. Y'all would work the stuff ready.
Yeah.
That would be. Okay.
So no actual action.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 11, general manager report.
Feel like I've done most of the talking, so I'll try to keep this brief. I'm sure Brian has more to share regarding legislative news and updates. I had included a little bit of update in your packet. Some of this I've taken from information I've received from them. But essentially, you know, we all know that session is kicked off. A lot of the rules are still unknown as far as what Senate and House are going to do as far as allowing public in and so forth. We're still waiting to hear who House committee chairs are, but we did get a list of Senate committee chairs that I provided to y'all by email and included in this information as well. You'll see a lot of new members on the Senate Committee of Water and Agricultural and Rural Affairs, but we do have three returning members. I have included also kind of a bullet point, some of the highlights from the Senate Committee on Rural Affairs, Water on their annual report. I don't think there's anything surprising there. In addition to this information, we've included in your packet permitted authorization and reporting through December, the fourth quarter. So again, information here, and this is one of the things I have concerns with not reporting. You'll see that these are not final numbers. Here this January, we still do not have final numbers. And under the current rules that follow the semi-annual reporting, we won't have them for another year. So it really doesn't allow us to get better information, right? Especially when we're requested from legislators and so forth, we don't know what. Well restoration, still drilling continues to increase, mostly in Johnson County. We see largely deep wells. staff is staying busy going out, monitoring these wells. This time of year, we're doing a lot of water level measurements. Mr. Tidwell again mentioned staff does as well. I think that was the green light today for Michael and his team to do the water level measurements on his wells. I know I told him to hold off till after today. So it's a green light. Not giving me to read it while you're out there. Yes, sir.
Last meeting, we had noted that Somerville County had an increase in Alpha usage.
Yes, sir.
I talked to the Somerville County Water District, Kevin Taylor, and they had a contract with the city of Glenrose. And they allowed the city of Glenrose to get out of it where the district was providing water exclusively to the city. The city has now gone back on well water, claiming that the historical use permit cost in order for them to generate enough revenue to pay them. If they got off the water, Somerville County Water District, their cost of less price passed on to the consumer, but they would be able to think of favor.
Well, and not being there for the conversation, you know, it's still 20 cents per thousand either side of the column. So I'm not quite sure how that cost is different besides the pass through that maybe was being charged to them.
That's just what I was complimenting.
So was some of that surface water they were provided previously
Yes,
under contract? So that's probably, that surface water is a lot higher. But, so, you know, I kind of speculated that a lot of that increase was due to some of the gravel mining and stuff. I think that may be the case. Or thank you for that update on that. Kind of the last thing I want to touch on is staff is still working on technical reviews. We've made a lot of progress putting that information together. And, you know, we intend to get with Ryan Sledge to kind of nail down a schedule to start planning hearings on those historic use permits. One of the things we want to make sure we've got our heads wrapped around is, you know, the informal meetings with the applicant again to show final recommendations from staff that will be going to the board to allow that last review and consideration of information that may not have been provided initially or was not obvious in the first review. So unless someone has questions regarding my report, that would be all I have.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Kathy, I'm gonna have to get out of here now, but do you need to send out a doodle poll for a Rules and Regs Committee meeting?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all very much. I've got a very busy day. This is my regular meeting day too, so I'm gonna have to close out, but I thank y'all and I will see y'all soon.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, Brian, item 12, general counsel report.
Well, good morning, everybody. I don't have a whole lot to report. Mostly it's been watching the first week of the legislature last week. The House basically adopted its rules. It has not appointed committees yet. That'll probably happen in about 2 weeks or so. The Senate, the House rules were adopted. It looks like you're still gonna mostly have to come to Austin to testify on any bills. They may do on a committee by committee basis some virtual testimony, but only if you are invited by the chair as invited testimony and the chair decides to allow virtual testimony. So that will be a challenge in the pandemic. As Kathy noted, the Lieutenant Governor appointed the Senate committees on Friday. They have combined the Agricultural Committee back into the Water and Rural Affairs Committee, where it was 2 sessions ago. Broke it out last time, but now they put it all back together. And as Kathy noted, there are over half the committee are new members that won't know much of anything about water or groundwater issues. So we'll have a educational on that front. Not really any new news on the legislative front, except that Representative Dwayne Burns of Cleburne did file an attorney's fee bill similar to what he filed last session. Surprised when I saw the bill was filed and called him, and his staff had inadvertently filed something they didn't intend to file, so that bill's going to change, and it'll look like the bills we talked about last month are being carried by Senator Perry in the Senate and Representative Cody Harris in the House, and similar to what was considered in the TWCA committee. I'm happy to answer questions, but that's all I have.
Questions of Brian? Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 13, open forum. Is there any discussion, any future meeting agendas?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Those opposed, motion carries.